Hi, welcome to How to Repair. A friend of mine had an Indesit washing machine that they've been getting a lot of intermittent faults with, including not emptying, sometimes not spinning, and other faults on the machine. Now, I've been doing some testing on this machine and I've just found out that I have an F15 error code. I've also gone into the diagnostic system and on occasions I've seen F05 and F02. Now, this could be an intermittent fault, or we could have a problem with the machine. And in this video, I'm going to be showing you how to use the diagnostic mode to run through some checks, while also checking the individual components on the machine. Fault finding on a washing machine is one of the hardest things to do. Actually, replacing the components is quite simple. Now, we're working on an Indesit, an XWD71252WUK. The ID label can normally be found inside the door or on the back of the machine. Now, I will put exploded diagrams up on a page for you of this machine, including all the relevant videos with regards relating to replacing components and other diagnostic procedures. This video is just a general guide in us finding the fault with this machine and being able to rectify it. Now, the first thing you need to be aware of when working on the machine, especially when entering diagnostic mode, make sure you do not have any clothing in the machine whatsoever. Shut the door and now we'll be able to enter the test mode, but you will have to watch quite closely because this needs to be done in an allocated period of time and it is time sensitive. Now, some people get confused when entering diagnostic mode because they have different programs on their machine. I always try to explain this to people in layman terms. Treat the top half as if it was a clock face, meaning that the number 1 position at the top here is 12 o'clock. The number 2 position is 1 o'clock. The number 3 position is 2 o'clock. And if we turn it to the spin, that is 11 o'clock. Those are the only bits that you need to worry about. The rest of the procedure needs to be done in an allocated period of time. So I'm going to turn the machine off. I'm just going to move this round again to the 12 o'clock position just to try and clear any of the memory in the machine. And I'm going to turn the machine on. Turn the dial to the 1 o'clock position, turn it off. Turn it back to the 12 o'clock position, turn it on. Turn it to the 2 o'clock position, turn it off. Turn it back to the 12 o'clock position, turn it on, turn it to the 11 o'clock position and press start. You should see AT on Indesit machines coming up in the right hand corner. This now has started the test procedure and I'm going to let it run through the test procedure off camera until we get to the point where the machine has finished, and then we will then see an error code come up on the display if there is an error on the machine. We would also see individual functions happening while the machine is going through the test program. At the moment, if I open the soap drawer here and take it out, water was coming through on the one valve and now it should come through on the other valve. This is testing both of the water valves on the machine. And as I can see, both of those are perfect. So I'm going to let the machine run through the whole test procedure. Now, I have done a separate video on this test procedure to show you all the functionality, and I will put this link in the description below. It is exactly the same on the Hotpoint machines as it is with the Indesit machines. Okay, the machine went through a few minutes of the test procedure and has now shown an F02 fault. I have also been told that this machine also displayed an F01 fault, which normally indicates either a problem with the motor or the circuit board. But the customer did tell me that they also had an F05 fault on one occasion, and this is due to the machine not emptying in the allocated period of time. So the two things that this is pointing me in the direction of: one, to check the motor first. If it has carbon brushes, then it may be a problem with them. If it doesn't have carbon brushes, then it may either be a problem with the motor or the circuit board. But we'll also inspect the pump for any blockages and make sure that the machine is able to empty in the allocated period of time. Now, we're going to have to go round the back of the machine and remove the motor first to test the motor. Okay, the first thing we need to do is actually turn the machine off and unplug it to make sure it's safe when actually removing the motor. Okay, removing the back straightforward. Just undo the screws on the back plate. Be careful of the sharp edges. This now gives us access to the motor area. Okay, let me just quickly explain. The printed circuit board for this machine is on the left hand side. You have the heater unit here with the NTC sensor. I'll quickly tell you some error codes that may have come up on your display with regards to the heater, and that is F07 and F08 are normally heater related. There are a couple of error codes, F13, 14 and 15 are to do with washer dryers and the heater circuit that's normally on the top of the machine. And I'm quickly just going to take one wire off this and just show you a quick test to do with the actual heating element. Turning the meter to continuity, I would be able to use an ohms reading, but this is showing that the actual heater is good. We haven't got a fault with that. Now, to remove the motor is straightforward and simple. I can see that the motor here has got 6 wires attached to the motor plus the earth. This indicates to me that it is a motor with carbon brushes. If it only had 3 wires, then it may be an induction motor, and your error code could be related to either a motor fault if it is an induction motor or a circuit board problem on the more modern machines. To take the belt off is straightforward, and you will notice here that there is a lot of dust. This also indicates to me that the carbon brushes have worn considerably, because that amount of carbon around the machine is indicating that the carbon brushes are worn or gone completely. Take the belt off, ease it towards you and rotate the wheel. The belt will simply come off. The belt on this machine, just for anyone that's curious, is a 5PJE 1194. That means it's 1 meter 194 millimeters long. Now, to remove the motor, the first thing we need to do is unplug the actual electrics, and just be careful, and the plug should come away. I'm having to go down just to get at this because sometimes they are sticky. And if I bring this up to the camera for you, you can see that the motor has 1, 2, 3, 4 larger wires and 2 red wires. I imagine the 2 red wires are the tachograph, which measures the amount of RPM the motor's doing. These are 2 10mm nuts, and I'm using a socket on these. Now, sometimes the motor will not come off these pulleys easily. If it will not, use a hook plier or hook screwdriver and just prise it off that way. Bring the motor forward, drop it down, and we can take the motor out. And again, I can see a lot of carbon brush there. The armature looks in good condition, but here we can see the 2 carbon brushes. And most modern machines today are using induction motors, and this means that they don't have carbon brushes. I actually prefer the older motors for the simple reason being is they don't have so many circuit board problems. A lot of the induction motors today are getting circuit board problems, but you can see all about that in another video. Okay, I've just put a board down here to work on, and I'm going to remove one of the carbon brushes to have a look, and hopefully this is the problem with the machine. So many machines are being thrown out for no reason whatsoever, and as you can see, the carbon brush is completely worn down. I'll put a new one up on the screen now so you can see what they should be looking like. Okay, I've just gone out into my workshop and I didn't have any new carbon brushes for this Nordic motor, but I did have some second-hand ones, and you can actually see the difference. The new one would be a little bit longer than that, maybe an extra ½ centimetre to 1 centimetre, but you can see the difference between the two. So we'll just quickly swap these over. Remember, sometimes there's clips on the electrical connectors just to unlock them, and we'll put the new one on and insert that into position. Make sure you guide the carbon brush down, drop it into location, and then replace the 2 screws. And do the same with the other side. Again, you can see that carbon brush is completely worn. Now we're ready to insert the motor back in. Okay, put the motor underneath, lift it up into position, line it up on the lugs and drop it back into location. Connect up the electrics, make sure to put the earth on, put the belt on the middle of the motor, then put it onto the pulley wheel and carefully rotate it, watching your fingers against the sharp edges. Give it a few rotations and make sure it sits in the middle of the pulley wheel, and that might need a couple of adjustments on the actual spline of the motor. And that's sitting in the center. Now we can put the machine on test. Right, switch the machine round, put the back on. I've connected the water back up, turning the machine on. Now the first thing I'm going to do is actually just check this on the spin. And I just want to make sure the motor is rotating, and I know that that has cleared the 1 error code. So let's just put it on spin, and it should go into empty and then start rotating, which it is. That's great. I'm going to let it go through the spin cycle off camera, and then I'm going to run through diagnostic mode again to make sure there are no errors stored in the system. Okay, the machine's gone through a spin cycle, worked perfectly, went up to 1000 RPM, which I set it at, and now I'm going to run the diagnostic procedure again. I'm also quickly off camera going to actually drop the pump and the sump hose off this machine, because the customer did say that they had an F15 error code, which is related to the machine unable to empty in the allocated period of time. Now the sump hose is the actual hose that attaches to the bottom of the drum, and sometimes you can end up with a small bit of clothing, baby sock, tissue, anything can actually get clogged in this, and that can restrict the actual flow of water leaving the machine. Any debris around the pump impeller would also cause a problem, or if the pump filter was blocked as well. But let me just quickly show you how to take it back into test procedure and run a full diagnostic while the camera is running, so you can actually see that it's going through a test procedure correctly, and I'll quickly show you on camera what it should be doing while it's going through the whole of this test procedure. Okay, off camera I actually went through the sump hose, the pump, and made sure all that was perfect. We're going to run the full diagnostic procedure, and I will fast forward it in some sections so you don't have to get bored, and just make sure this machine has not got any errors stored in the system or is creating any errors. So again, turning the dial to the 12 o'clock position at the top, turn the machine on, turn it to the 1 o'clock position, turn it off. Turn it back to the 12 o'clock position, turn it on. Turn it to the 2 o'clock position, turn it off. Turn it back to the 12 o'clock position, turn it on. Turn it to the 11 o'clock position and press start. This should then show AT on the system, and I'm quickly going to open up the soap drawer here so we can see what actually happens. The first water valve that is energized is the left-hand water valve, which I believe is the one at the back. The next, it will stop for a few seconds, then it will switch over to the other water valve. This is making sure both of the water valves are working correctly. The machine now should fill, and if I can get this soap drawer in, to an allocated level on the machine, checking the pressure sensor is working correctly to make sure that it's filling to an adequate level where the heating system can come on. Now if you look at the wattage on my display dial here, you can see it's only drawing 20 watts at the moment, and that's the control panel energized and one water valve working. The heater, once it gets to the correct level of water, will come on as the drum does a clockwise and anti-clockwise on low RPM, approximately 30 to 40 RPM. There we go, the heater has kicked in, and the drum is rotating in the anti-clockwise rotation. It stops, and now it will go into a clockwise rotation. This is checking the functionality not only of the actual wash, but also making sure that the heater is working correctly and the NTC sensor is sending the correct values to the main circuit board. This is basically allowing you to get an indication that the machine is functioning correctly. Now, if any of those components were not working, then what would actually happen is an error code would show up on the system as it did at the beginning of the video. Now, we'll let this go through because it'll take a couple of minutes doing this before it goes into empty, and then it will do a full diagnosis on the spin system to make sure that there is no spinning problem that we had at the beginning of this video. And it's very important to let the machine go through the whole functionality of the actual program to see if it creates any error. Now, as I said, this will take about 4 or 5 minutes for it to go through the whole program. And while it's doing this, I have put links to the web page that I've created for you, where not only are there additional videos on other errors and how to replace components on this machine. By the way, I'll stop there. The machine has just gone into empty, and you can see it's drawing 30 watts of power. As soon as the drum, the pressure sensor tells the actual machine it's empty, it will go into a slow spin and slowly build up to the maximum RPM. Now this will take about 5-6 minutes for it to go through the program, and if there are no errors, it should show end at the end of the program. Anyway, going back to what I was saying, I've put a link in the description which will take you to a web page, not only where you will have exploded diagrams of this machine, but other videos related to problems with this machine. And you will also find at the bottom of the page new and second-hand parts for this model of machine. If you do need parts, whether new or second-hand, you will be able to use your model number in the search to be able to actually find parts, FAQs, which are frequently asked questions, and also other videos called tutorials, which will show you all types of machines, from cookers, ovens, refrigeration, and many other appliances. And I've even done some solar videos and solar water videos as well in the past. Now do remember, if you do have a problem with any of your machines, I am happy to help, but I do need the correct information off you to be able to assist you. Now with today's technology, we are able to communicate much better. And what I suggest you do is, if you have a fault with your machine, let's use YouTube for the right purpose. Create a small video describing the problem that you have, including the make and model of the machine. Upload it to your own YouTube channel, and then use the contact us page on the website to paste the link in while you send a question in to me. This way I would be able to look at the problem that you have with your machine and get a better understanding to be able to help you, and maybe even make you a personal video to assist you in repairing your machine. Now going back to the machine now, I reckon we're at about 700-800 RPM, and you can see that the motor is drawing 1200 and it's going up. But as you see the wattage go up, you can also hear the actual machine increasing in spin velocity. This is now most probably somewhere in the region of 1000, and it's going up, and it will go all the way up to the maximum RPM on the machine, which is 1200 RPM. We're at 170 watts of power, 178, 180, and you can hear the actual RPM going up. This means the motor now is functioning correctly. I think this will go all the way through to the very end, and I'll just fast forward this bit now until it comes to the end. Okay, it should be coming to the end of the program in a second. I just want to note, by the way, if you were actually wondering what the wattage on the motor is when there is a load in the machine, of course the wattage would be greater because it's having to use more energy to not only rotate the drum, but the weight of the clothing as well. That's a good point to mention. These are very good machines. For the money that you pay for them, they are quite reliable. They are becoming quite old now. I think this machine must be at least 7-8 years old, and the more modern machines now are using induction motors. Induction motors are actually more reliable, but they have more faults with the circuit boards. Circuit boards are a big problem with machines, and in the next few days I've just bought a Bosch washing machine, a brand new one, to do a review on, and you'll actually be seeing not only how Bosch has improved with their warranties and also the other features on the machine, but you'll also see how badly they are treating the general public when it comes to the Right to Repair Act. But you'll see that in another video. Now the machine has finished spinning, and if it's going to actually have no fault at all, it will come up with end. This means that now you can turn the machine off, set it to whatever program you want, and once the door releases, you'll be able to fill the machine with clothing and continue washing. And there you go. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks very much indeed for watching. Please remember to give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and if we really helped you, you can always click on the Buy Paul a Beer page and donate to the channel. Thanks very much indeed for watching.